And once again we return. Amid the crazies in the U.S. and everything else that's going on, we are here, all of us. We continuing. We're back with Waterdeep. Anybody got any stories of real life during the week they want to share? We just ready to hop in? That's not good. Did you fail to empty the crumbs out? Good to know, yes, good to know. It's just part of the crazy panic that's going on. It's insane. Whatever. Yeah, they're not going to make any more bread. They're not going to make any more toilet paper. They're not going to make any more paper towels. We're all just going to run out, and that's how we're all going to die, is because we're going to run out of toilet paper. We'll all have to go out. We'll all have to go out and scoot around on the lawn. What is that? I couldn't see it well enough. It had a lot of reflection. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Now I see through the plastic what it is. Very good. And to you guys on Discord, this will look backwards because I can't get Discord to swap around the way it should be. It always reverses me. On the stream, it's properly reversed, so I show the correct way. But I am wearing my T-shirt that is appropriate for this week. Let me show it first, and then I'll read it to you. What it says is, proud to be Irish, and Spanish and French and Moorish and Russian and Jewish and Mongolian and German and Scottish. I am Heinz 57 Varieties. Unfortunately, I have never been able to claim American Indian. It's the only thing missing, but my grandkids all can claim American Indian, so they are complete. I'm still missing a piece of the pie. Absolutely, and I think it's absolutely great. We're all just part of the family of man. So I think but that's my favorite. I can claim to be anything except American Indian. Anyway, last week as we left off, just for your information, Kyle Epiphany will be joining us shortly. He's had quite a week. They've had to be doing telecommuting for work, and it has pushed into his weekend, and he is absolutely frantic trying to finish the last minute stuff that's going on with that. So he'll be appearing shortly, but at the moment he's off camera, so if his picture is skewaddled when he pops up on screen, I'll get it fixed. But at the moment, we are preparing to start back up with Water Dance, our version of the Waterdeep Dragon heist. And when we left off last week, the group had just begun to realize, as Cashin returned from a little bit of an outing, that there's an awful lot of pieces of information floating around that some people know this, and some people know this, and another person knows something else. So Nakri had just said, you know, we need to sit down and really compile what we've got. The only one who's been doing a lot of compiling has been the shepherd, who has this complicated connections chart in his room that he's been following all of the intrigue on. Yes, tap fingers together as he thinks everybody's the cause of it. What had happened last week, various people did a few things to complete stuff they needed, and then they had their grand reopening, which was massively well attended. They they were supported both by the who's who of Waterdeep and the local neighborhood, plus a lot of regular customer sort of things. They were giving a message to the stiff-necked officials of Waterdeep that pushing this group around might not be the best thing to do. There certainly seems to be some intrigue going on, things here that are behind the scenes that no one's quite sure why some of these officials seem to have a bone to pick. There seems to be matters that not everybody understands. And Cashin, during the break after the lunch opening and a little bit of hiatus when things slowed down just a bit before the dinner crowd, he decided to go off on this lead regarding the old lamplighter Fenris Stormcastle. And it turned out to be a little bit more than or different than he was expecting. He was expecting maybe he'd trounce in on some kind of fight or something, but instead he discovered, first of all, the back alley gang of kids, street urchins, who had captured an apple cart and were riding it down the slope of the street with great victorious shouts as they were carting off all the apples. And through their lead, he managed to find Fenris's house and a trail of blood which led to a dead body, which looked like, from circumstantial evidence, was probably Fenris himself. He's not certain, but it was probably Fenris, along with a totally ransacked house. It had just been turned upside down to the point that even his mattress had been slit open. He also, the man that may have been Fenris, had also scrawled in blood on the floor before he died, "Stone," in big letters across the thing. So there's more questions. When Cashin came out, he encountered Laeral Silverhand, which was a little bit odd, because she's usually not seen without her guards, but for some reason she seemed to want to sneak in on this and talk to Cashin, and she basically told him that she could have saved Fenris. She was too late, and Xanathar got to him first. By the time Cashin arrived home, he discovered that somehow a piece of paper had been slipped into his pocket that read, "You may need to check the nearby cellar." No more information than that, just a cellar somewhere nearby that he was supposed to follow up on. So they're going to have to try and figure out what this cellar is. All they know now is Xanathar and a cellar. That's all they know at this point. So is there anything anybody wants to clarify, set up, or talk about before you guys start in on your RP? And it's fairly easy shop. You were given instructions on how to find the shop. You find it fairly easily. It is a decent-sized potion shop. The information had been sent ahead that these bottles were to be prepared, and you walk into a gnome, another gnome running this shop. His name is Schemo Weirdbottle. Right, it's almost as good as Zoblob or whatever his name was, which is also involved in some of these quests. Anyway, Mr. Weirdbottle looks up over his glasses as you come in, Relian. What are you going to do and say to him? Oh, yeah, here for the bottles of potion that was sent ahead. I say, how is everybody doing down there? I understand that old devil chap has got himself in a hell bit of trouble. No, they don't know I'm connected to things, so it's been kind of easy on me. But have you heard any word from Istrid? How are we going to handle our finances? Then Epi is there too and listening to this. Epi, want to throw anything in on this as Rellian's talking? So what does Rellian say about Istrid? No, outside of the fact that all the main ones seem to have been pulled in, but I haven't heard about Istrid being pulled in. I certainly hope she doesn't. I don't know where all our finances will come from. But here, and he bends down and rustles around in shelves on his side of the counter, and finally picks up a black velvet bag, pouch that has a drawstring at the top, and it clinks as he hands it to you like glass clinking together. I think this is what you're after, but let me know if you find anything about Istrid. I've got some outstanding bills I need to submit for financing. About who Istrid is. Yeah, no, he was saying that he's got outstanding finances that the company hasn't paid for yet, and he's starting to worry. And then what he's handing over clinks like glass, not like coins. With all the factions, you mean? I don't know what's going to happen, especially with this whole problem with the Xanathar. This is this has really got me worried. I don't know who these people are that are trying to muscle in on our territory. I'd blame it on the Xanathars myself. They're always behind everything. They've always been trying to destroy us.
Stick to the ship we're on, as it were. Never, you know, mean, there are rumors that, the Zent split are gaining the upper hand right now.
I don't know what's going on. They haven't approached me. It's just been business as usual. But there's been talk of these other Zents murdering us and stabbing us in the back. And when they're not stabbing us, they're throwing us over to the authorities in Waterdeep.
God, there's just something about this guy that I don't like, and I don't know what it is. Screw it, I'm gonna insight him. I'm gonna see how much of a weasel he is, because this guy sounds like a weasel. God damn it, I'm wasting these good roll.
You know what? Epiphany is just gonna cast Detect Thoughts.
The man's...
He's
Let's see, what does he have to...
He's not gonna dig deep, he's just gonna kind of get the surface thoughts unless something seems...
Does he have a resistance roll, or is it just a...
Not for the surface thoughts. If Epiphany tries to get, if Epiphany tries to poke deeper, then he does get an int save. But just to get his surface thoughts, there's no
surface save. Thoughts are fear, confusion, worry. It seems to be genuinely worried about what's happening to the Zentarum, and seems quite confused and very worried about the higher-ups.
Okay. Once Epiphany feels comfortable that that's about it, he'll turn the Detect Thoughts to Aurelian and enjoy the Macarena.
Okay. So, Aurelian, on your...
Just elevator music.
Elevator music. Yeah. Got to have the girl from Ipanema on the elevator music. Aurelian, with his roll of 21, definitely looks at this guy, and he can see that what the guy is hiding only barely is panic. He is worried and looks like he's thinking maybe he should pack up and leave town.
All right, basically, I'm just trying to figure out if this guy, every Zent I've met so far now, I'm trying to figure out which one's loyal and which one's not. But he seems on the up and up and says, I'm just going to reach over and pat him on his tiny little shoulder and says, my friend, don't you worry. If we've survived this long, chances are we'll survive what's to come. We'll... everything, just take everything with what you can when you can,
Oh, I certainly hope so. In all my years, I've never seen all this stuff falling down around its ears like it is now. I wonder who's behind all this.
Well, rumors here, rumors there, but can't say for sure. But I'll let you get back to your business, and you have yourself a good night. And hey, remember, a horse is a horse. Of course, it's a horse, except when it's not. Bye.
Yeah, right. Keep your eye out for those Xanathars. Like I said earlier, they're in there somehow. I just know they are.
Aren't they always?
He waves at you and goes back to mixing potions at his table.
All right, so... where were we supposed to take these potions?
You're to take them to a statue in the castle ward. It's called the God Catcher, and it's a statue related to something to do with the history of Waterdeep. I've looked it up before, but I don't remember what it is, but it's basically a major piece of history of Waterdeep.
Did we swing by there on the way home, or would it be more time effective just to do this another day?
Let's look at the overall wards here and see what the distance is. You were in the trades ward for Weird's Bottle, so you went south down to the trades ward. So the castle ward would be a little bit of a swing west for you. Castle ward is over by the sea. That's this one here. And The trades ward is down here by the City of the Dead. So you would have to go like from wherever his was over to wherever the statue is and then back up to Troll Skull.
Wouldn't be that far out of the way. What do you think, Kappa?
We do have to get back in order to confer with the others.
It probably would not be, if you kind of trotted fast, it wouldn't be unreasonable because I figured that Cassian's thing took a couple of hours. And your thing is basically pick these bottles up, deliver them to whoever is waiting for them at the Godcatcher statue, and then you can head home. So you ought to be able to do that within that 2 to 3 hours that he was doing his thing.
If memory serves, we were told just to leave the bottles at the statue and then we'd be paid later, I think.
It says, pick up the potions and deliver them to the Godcatcher, one of the enormous statues in the castle ward. Give the potions to the lady in the purple cloak.
Ah, okay.
Keep the tip, it
So-
also says.
Okay, so yeah, we'll do that, and we'll head to the Godcatcher statue.
Very good. The statue is quite large and looks like a priest that's praying some kind of divine prayer or something. I have images of what's his name in Skyrim chanting and raving about Talos, but anyway. Talos! Great Talos!
Talos loves to all.
But anyway, this huge statue.
Heimsker.
Yeah, Heimsker, that's his name. Heimsker, yep. Absolutely. Anyway, it's a statue that kind of evokes that kind of feeling when you look at it and you kind of lift an eyebrow at this guy that's preaching to the heavens sort of thing, whatever the history was of Waterdeep that related to it. So you arrive there and you very quickly see a very slender woman clothed in rather tight-fitting leather, black leather. She has a purple cloak on with the hood pulled way down to shade her eyes, and she is just with her arms crossed and her feet crossed. She is leaning against the statue looking around. By the way,
Emotions. Goodbye.
let's see. How long
Friend.
have you been in Waterdeep, Brilliant?
Just shy of 2 years now.
Give me a history roll.
You got it. Above average, I'll take it.
You look at this woman, and your first feeling, if you were in today's world, would be she was trying to cosplay. The dress that she has, including a kind of a purple feather that sticks out of a cap she has on top of this hood, looks like she's trying to imitate the I wouldn't say hero stories, because it's not exactly a heroine, but these adventuresome stories about a woman who is known as the Black Viper. And she seems to be dressed very much like that woman out of the stories.
Fan of history. Happy you want to have some fun with this?
You would have to tell Epi, because he doesn't have quite the human background of these mythologies. He might have a harder time with it. If you rolled on it, Epi...
We wish to accomplish the task and then to return.
Very good. So you can
fine, kill
roll
me.
history with disadvantage, or you can just go with his.
Epiphany doesn't care. Your stories are irrelevant and pointless.
Rel and Epi would probably sidle up to her, and Rel would whisper, "Oi, Black Viper, we have the materials needed for your gallant quest."
She turns and her eyes kind of sparkle and she looks at you. You can see just the hint of a smirk in the dark under her hood as she turns. Thank you for not saying it too loud. You have a black velvet bag for me?
Black velvet for the Black Viper. How apropos. And I'll hand it over.
She opens it briefly and looks in, pulls out one of the vials and holds it up to the light, nods with satisfaction, and reaches behind her belt under the cloak, pulls out an identical black velvet bag, exactly like it, and hands it to you. This one clinks very heavily of money. And I need to look at something real quick because I can't remember the names of the coins. I always have to look that up.
Gold is dragons.
That I remember. That's not what I'm looking up.
Meanwhile, Relian has put the black velvet bag near his face. He's just rubbing his cheek against. Velvet, it feels so good against my skin.
Silver is shards. Copper is nibs.
There's no way that feels that.
When you open it, it is sparkling a silver color, and you realize that they are circular pieces, not the hourglass pieces that you were expecting. You find 15 basically sun coins in there, which are platinums.
15. Okay. Epi, we're going gambling.
We must return back. Time is nigh.
Epi is anxious to get this confab started.
Okay, so I'm just going to hide these. If anyone asks, we don't have anything.
By the way, each of you get a point of renown, and those points of renown are really important. Make sure you are keeping reference of them, because when it comes time for your next profit session with the inn, those will come into play.
What renown do we apply it to?
It doesn't really matter. You can keep a single renown category and lump them all into one.
Okay, so unaligned.
Technically, it would be Zentarum, but as far as really the renown goes, your renown can be spent anywhere. It's almost like coins.
Okay, so we don't need to keep track of like 3 Xanathar and 2. Let's just keep. Okay, got it. And there was a thump. I'll be right back.
Very good. All right, so Cashin comes trotting in. How quickly does Cashin come in? Is he like running, panting, or is he just strolling in?
He's been trying to make it look like he's not panicked, so he just walks in. But as Nakri would have noted, he looks concerned as he relays the information he gave her about the meeting with Laryl, the death the body he found, etc.
Very good.
Things we already did last week.
Okay, and not far behind on his heels, Relian and Epiphany return. How are they looking after their meeting? Like they just ate the canary, or what's their appearance?
I can't speak for Epi, but I suppose Rel's eyes would be glimmering even more than they are.
Very good. All right, so are you going to call a meeting to order? How's this going to go down?
Yeah, I mean, I would have just repeated what I had said last week about. I think it's about time we start putting all our cards on the table. Like, from between that point and the next rush, how much time do we have, give or take?
It's a matter of whether you decide to do this here in the tavern room or just leave the rush to the hired hands and take it upstairs. You could have the meeting upstairs and have all the time you wanted. It is about, I'll say, getting close to 4 o'clock. So around 5, you'll start seeing things building up again.
I'll suggest it be taken upstairs then.
Very good. So all of you,
The third floor?
it could be to that common room that's just right upstairs. There's no way. You'd have to go around the back way to get up there, because that's the only access now to the common room.
I'd say we'd do it in this room here.
Okay. So the room with the 3 beds on the 2nd floor, she pinged. That might be a good place for you all to stand.
That way we're close enough to the tavern to see out if we hear something going on, but high enough that no one's going to actually hear us, so to speak.
Exactly.
Especially with the din of the evening crowd.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so
there are always little masked guards and et cetera, et cetera.
Okay, so everybody gather up there in the 3rd room, and we'll bring this meeting to order. Whoa! How did you've got a token already on the barroom floor?
Oh, actually, I didn't even see that one, so I'll delete that one. Yeah, my bad. I forgot that it was like further down. There's my token. It's like, oh yeah, just drag it on. No, derp.
And she slid under the bed to be sure that she could hide the meeting.
See, is this not more comfortable?
That's what Epi does all the time, is sleeps under the bed. He's the thing under your bed that crawls out in the middle of the night.
The bugaboo.
There is something above the bed.
Now, Epi, we've been through this countless times. There's no such things as things on the bed.
It sounds like children.
It would be terrifying. It would be terrifying. It sounds like children.
Oh, God.
How do you know how I sleep?
Because Epi has slid under the door and watched. All right.
Ouch.
So this meeting is all yours. What are you going to do with it?
Well, first, I think Cashin's going to relay all the information he now knows. So first is, so today, Victor Trench came to me and informed me that not only did he learn that the nimble right that we detected in the dock ward belongs to a Mr. Zarda Zord, but that he also found rumors of a peculiar figure being spotted in the Trollkirk Alley. I went to the alley to find anything about it, since he was also informed that a lamplighter who lived there has gone missing. And wouldn't you know, I found a body in there, in the man's house, and the word stone written in blood.
Stone?
And if that, yes, as in the Stone of Golorr.
Well,
And
we don't know that for 100% fact, still, do we?
It's true. I didn't get a good look at him, and I didn't even know what Fenris looks like. But that doesn't compare to the fact that the Open Lord came out of nowhere to inform me that it was Xanathar's doing.
How convenient.
Yes, it's...
The last time we had seen her, she was with escort.
For now, we'll just have to keep that suspicion to ourselves and come to it later. But they did slip me a note, and it said that we have to find a basement near that alley.
That could either be a trap or could be anything of the sort. I mean, it's not like we didn't make enemies with either side, with both sides, possibly.
True.
We have many enemies, very few allies, and a whole lot of questions. So
Well-
here's mine. I know there's some things that some people are connected to, some things that other peoples are not connected to. I'm not going to question the how, why, or what, but I've started to get this feeling from multiple sources that all of us have a little bit of a piece of a puzzle that if we just put those cards on the table, like I said downstairs, it'll start to paint the better picture and find our actual target. Especially since we keep getting so many different people asking us for odd tasks, like taking care of adventurers who are murderers and things of that nature.
Well, it's for my part at least, I feel like I've been fairly straightforward with you all.
I will also just mention this, that in suspicion, I have been questioned about any relations to not the alternate Zentarum, but to the Zentarum themselves. One which I have adamantly, to the point of nearly accusing back of attempting to coerce me into it, that I do not have any known relations. A gamble which I know I'm covering for at least someone in the group.
I hear warily at her saying she has no connections, because I have seen connections.
Well, that's why she's called this meeting, is to see, you know, who suspects, who wants to put forward anything.
I need to make a rule. Let's see, what's Nakri? Okay, Nakri's got a +3. Okay.
Yeah, spoiler alert. Appo has been keeping in character a relationship chart on all of your interactions.
I remember him saying that.
Yeah,
Alright,
he
It
told
took,
us.
it took me a moment to remember what that +3 meant.
So yeah, and he simply nods at really.
Okay. Okay. Seeing Epi nod, Relian will nod back at him and say, he clapped his hand in front of his face and says, okay, so, cards on the table. Now this might come at a shock to all of you, but Epi and I have not exactly lived a clean life.
The gasp!
I'm just going to look at the shepherd at this point and look at him and go, well, that's one more confirmation on your board.
I know it's a shock and a surprise because, I mean, Epi and I mean, we're just the pictures of morality, right? I mean, but you know, that's just good acting on our part, I suppose. But let's just say it's not entirely voluntary. You know what? Screw it. I'm tired of the cloak and dagger, and I wear one for goodness sake. In fact, I wear both. But Epi and I are collectors, shall we say, of certain things. You know, knickknacks, trinkets.
Friend Relian, we will attempt to specify. Several months back, we got into a bit of trouble. We were arrested and we were thrown in prison, and then we were hired and bribed with the assistance to get out of said confinement. We appreciated this very much. However, since then, we have been asked to perform rather unscrupulous duties.
And
That
if I
was-
wanted to work with you for your morals, I would have worked with paladins. So,
Oh, come on, we're not so bad.
However, we have made arrangements to disconnect ourselves.
Freedom. Sweet freedom. And it will just take one little more favor.
how big of a favor? I'm curious about.
It is currently underway.
Well,
Is it a
I'm just
favor
gonna
that you're
I'm just
aware
gonna
of?
flat out tell them because it kind of ties into our information we have to share. So, show of hands, how many of you know about the Zentarum split that's happening in the city right now?
Well, considering what we had in our basement at one point, and just the general knowledge that they existed in the city outside of the Xanathar's group, which we've already made ourselves not so many friends with.
I have been aware of this.
Right. Well, long story short, the Zents have split. I and Epi are sticking with the Loyalist faction, and the new kids on the block, the ones with the fists above the old symbol, they're the Splinter group, and word has it that the ones that have come back and taken over those fellas is the original big bad man Shun himself, which sounds a bit like a load of horse apples to me, but anything's possible with magic, I suppose. And not only has he apparently taken over the Splinter group, but he's also in charge of a lot of dark and morally dubious magical hijinks and cults around the city as well.
DM, don't I know that Manchun is dead?
I would assume that's general knowledge. Is he's supposed to be dead again?
A pretender, nothing more.
Or who knows? He was a powerful wizard. He could have escaped death again.
It matters not whether this Manchun is the true Manchun, a pretender, or something else. All that matters is those who follow him believe that he is.
And belief can be a
are
rather
you.
problematic thing depending on who it is.
And
We-
like I said before, it's not just Zens who are following him. He's also got his hand in some magical cults here and there. From what I've heard, he gives a very pointed look at the shepherd, and
I do look at Relian at that mention.
When we had our guest downstairs that you have taken under your wing, Calm Corpse.
Yes.
oh god,
His mind was racked with absolute fear directed solely at the one he referred to as Manchun.
Hmm.
This level of fear it tasted like garlic.
I wasn't aware that fear had a taste.
Different fears have different flavors.
in Epi, translating for Epi here, when a fear tastes like garlic, it's genuine, like soul-shatteringly genuine.
It is clean.
I think I understand.
Yeah, so that's what we've got to offer.
He had
Manchun
no
might be
reason
back.
to lie to his own mind.
Manchun might be back. He's split the Xantarms clean down the middle. He's taken over magical cults and factions across the city, and he's gotten a lot of the old guard leadership of the Zents locked up in prison or dead or fled the city. And part of what we've got to do to strike our bargain clean is get our old pal Dabble out of the slammer.
You say that he has his hands involved in cults, do you happen to have any specific kinds already known?
I didn't hear any names. All I know is for sure he's got his hands in a lot of different pies all around the city.
Is it possible that he's the one who's been creating all of these disturbances that we've been running around and chasing? That would be a lot of pies indeed.
Too many eyes wandering in different areas makes sure that there aren't certain eyes lying on him. It's a good plan for him to have.
And would require little effort. Simply have one little rat scurry there and bite some cheese, another scurry over there, steal some berries.
So, you asked for cards on the table? There's our hand. Your turn!
Did you tell everyone about what you found out, or only Nakri?
I just told them that right before this.
I wasn't sure if you had told them upstairs or if you just mentioned it to Nakri downstairs, but yeah, you did it after you came up.
Yeah.
Shepard, do you have anything to throw in on your end of this that you want to add to it that might add to understanding or connections?
Probably none at the moment.
So,
And Cashin is just musing at the moment. He hasn't been saying anything since he spoke his words.
I actually look at Nakri. Do you think they're trustworthy enough? And I'm looking at everyone in the room.
I think for the most part, despite different allegiances, I think everyone here is willing to be trustworthy enough together. I know, at least from my perspective, I wouldn't cover for the two of them if I didn't think they were worth covering for, which is why when the guards showed up claiming that I could have had, but if I had been grilling and questioning them, if I had known any centaurs, I kept my mouth silent on the matter. In fact, acting incredibly agitated that they would dare ask a guest of the city. One cover-up I will continue to keep even after that fact.
Yeah, we've kind of made a liar out of you, Sugar Scales, but we love you for it.
She did not lie at the time.
Very well then.
What about Varys, by the way? We haven't heard from him, and he's had some connections with his faction that is bringing in entirely different information that might be needed.
I was actually going to continue on. Sorry.
Yeah,
Go
I was
ahead.
just letting other people have their chance to speak first.
Relian has already seen my work. The rest of you have not, but all of you have not answered my questions.
What question is that?
Where were you 9 years, 3 months, 15 days ago? You laugh at this now, DM. This is a serious moment for the shepherd.
I laugh because I know it's serious.
Epiphany kind of looks around.
I was not born at that time.
You're 9 years old.
No, I was talking. I owe Sealy out of for Epi, because but Ro would raise his hand and says, "I was finishing up my schooling at the Temple of Mistra back in Silvery Moon."
9 years ago, that was before I started working with the Enclave. I think I was still just practicing blacksmithing with Embrick. And I forget my other dad's name.
Especially,
That's so funny.
it's especially funny because Abby's the one he's actually physically related to, and Embrick is not.
Abby is the water genasi, Embrick is the fire genasi.
Well,
And you turn the fire dead for.
What a
Clearly-
loving,
clearly-
devoted
clearly-
son.
Yeah, clearly, there's a dad one and a dad two.
You know,
There's
I
a
need to
dad
write this
one
down
and
in
a
my
dad
character
two.
sheet real quick.
Probably. Clearly, Fire Dad splurged on Christmas.
You know what? Fire genasi.
Okay.
That was so perfect. Please let that be in character.
Ferris would have said Abby's name, but Michael could not remember Abby's name. So
To all D&D players watching, to anyone watching right now, remember this lesson and take it to heart. When you're playing a campaign, notes are your friend.
Oh, okay, sorry. I know, small OC interject on that. You mean kind of like the night where, when asked, who's your mom and dad? Ashley and Travis? And it's like on the spot having to pull up names for two characters they didn't even mention.
No, it's canon.
And then the next time you're asked, you can't remember. The DMs do this all the time. You make up a name on the spot, and then 2 weeks later, this character, for some reason, comes up again when you thought you would never see them again. And all of a sudden, you've got to remember this name, so you come up with a completely different name, and there's always going to be a player go, no, that wasn't his name.
Okay, so quick story. There is another D&D series that I watch called Star at the Table. And that happened to Zito, the DM of their group, where the group approached a dock worker, a cat person dock worker, and Zito just made up a name on the spot. His name is it's Pistachio. His name is Pistachio, the dock worker, and he gave him such a lovable personality and such a unique name that immediately he became a group favorite and a freaking fan favorite, to the point that it annoyed Zeta so much that 2 sessions later, one of the group was reading a newspaper, and one of the headlines was "Cat person dock worker found dead." Like, he just killed off the character because he was sick of dealing with them.
Anyway, back to the great reveal.
Yeah.
So Relian and Varys have answered, and I am looking at Epiphany and Cashin.
You wish to know where we were 9 years ago?
Indeed.
Epiphany looks at Relian and then looks back at the shepherd and says, "We do not understand that time frame."
Were you not created at the time?
We do not know. What we remember was voices, glass, water, shattering, words, books, blood, then the street. But as far as when, how long, we do not know. That is not relevant information to us.
Relevant enough for me. And then I look at Cashin.
I was probably drinking around then. I don't really keep track of how I haven't really kept track.
That one I'm going to insight. $19.
Are you going to try to counter it, Cashin?
No, Cashin is absolutely telling the truth. He doesn't really remember.
He was in a drunken haze.
Stacy, I think. Do you need to talk to somebody? You've got two men of the cloth here. I mean, is there anything you want to get off your chest? Because I think you might have a problem.
I don't need to look. I don't need to look for moral advice from you.
Ow! Scathing. I will take that rebuke coming from the drunk.
Very well, then I'm going to pose this as a question. Why is it that you do drink so much, and why is it that the guard has such a distaste for you? Remember, I did say cards on the table.
What does person do with it?
Ignoring the rude, faceless man, Cashin is just going to say, well, some years back, I was, for a temporary time, a member of the City Watch. And suffice to say, that career quickly ended when a small incident occurred that led to the death of about 8 people.
Only 8?
Or a dozen. I really...
I mean, number just kind of mattered you.
For them, it doesn't really matter since I screwed up because they thought me reckless.
You speak of Steggett.
Them and others, including the lords.
I mean, were you reckless? What happened?
I was tracking down a gang who were up and coming, and I had finally cornered them in a warehouse, but as me and others were making their way into it, an explosion occurred. And amidst the wreckage, in the aftermath, there were several bodies that they presumed to be innocent since they were apparently bound as if they were hostages.
But you couldn't have known that going straight into the situation at hand, could you?
No, I didn't. And we definitely didn't know that they had some sort of alchemical explosives in there too. It didn't matter to the lords. They just wanted to sweep me under the table.
Well, it is bad publicity when a guard is connected to 8 deaths in such a manner. I can understand their point of view, however, the situation as it is does not... It seems you were set up. I'll just be frank on that, please.
Yes, yes, it didn't take long for me and others to figure that out as well.
Indeed.
So, was it just you who got the brunt of it, or...?
I got it all, since the other members of the Watch that were with me were either horribly maimed or well, I was the one in charge, so of course all the blame laid upon me.
So you got your squad killed. Were they angry about that at all, or...?
Not killed. Most of them were maimed at best.
Oh, I'm sorry. That's so much better. But is that why you drink? Do you feel a little guilty for that, or are you just depressed about your situation?
To be specific, I'm depressed because despite my many years of service, I think I'll never climb up the ranks of I think I'll never become a member of Force Grey.
I thought you were already a member.
I've been a member of the Grey Hands for 20 years now.
What's the difference?
The Grey Hands are basically the ones that are selected. They basically weed out any of the ones who aren't worthy of being the members of Force Grey.
Okay, so
Seeley from the DM. Basically, Grey Hands are nothing but the American Legion. They might be people who are just loyal to Waterdeep and join them in just a camaraderie sense, or they might be former guards or watch who join in it, whereas Force Grey is an elite force that is usually drawn from the Grey Hands. And sometimes from the actual guards themselves.
Little boy blue, let me put it to you this way. He's worried that he's always going to be a recruit and never a captain.
I can understand that.
I've been a member of the Grey Hands for 20 years, and yet something keeps blocking my promotion.
I wouldn't be surprised if it was Captain Staggett himself.
He doesn't have that kind of pull.
No, but he has contempt.
Okay, no, time out. Cards on the table. If we're all being honest here, I've got to know. Shep, Commander Shep, my dear true friend, what is with your hatred of the guards? And I'm not talking about their general incompetence. I'm talking about your specific flaming hatred sword for the guards in general, especially for Staggett.
Outside of that, Staggett is sort of a dick.
So the reason I asked you about where you were the time ago, 9 years, 3 months, 15 days, that was the day my wife was murdered. And Captain Staggett was the man who was to lead the investigation, and he swore to me, I will not let this injustice stand. The next day, he came back. He asked general questions about our son, Leo. Didn't take me long to understand that he was pinning my wife's murder on our son, who was only 10 years old. Indeed, I do. 10 years old at the time. He's now 20. And when I told him to answer any more questions about my son, he started asking questions about Inara, my wife. Started the question like, did she have any acquaintances? Did she have any that I may have known in the past? And I understood little about that. Told him no, there was no. And then he implied that you knew of. And that I understood. He was starting to question her honor towards our family, and so I dared him to just come out with it. And then he told me, well, look at you and look at her. She could have done way better than you. Hell, I put money on it that she already did. And then he laughed. And his men laughed with him. And then I spent a fortnight in jail for shat in his face.
Bravo!
Oh yeah, I remember that.
I wasn't even allowed to go to her funeral. But I made sure that on that day, that when you speak to the shepherd, you do so softly.
Wait, I've got a question then. How am I still alive?
Because I do not take you seriously.
Yay! I'll have to change that later.
But now you know why the test for this city. It's not just the guards, it's the lords as well. Now you know why I seek out the Castellanters and this nobility cult.
Nobility cult aside, not all of the nobles are as...
They are all corrupt in my eyes until I deem it necessary.
Have the rest of us heard about the Castellanters, like Relian and I?
You know of them. You certainly know who they are. what details. I think there's a possibility some of you have individual details that you have been given that you know about, but there are connections running behind the scenes a little bit. Epi might have a kind of thing of when he really struggles, he might have a feeling like that name rattles around in his brain too much, like he's heard it before.
I will say, speaking of the castle enters, I know they did try to send a lovely warming up note post our interaction with the Growlhounds.
I know of this as well. Orund Growlhound was a member of their cult, and I figured out that the cult is their doing and that they were the ones responsible for Inara's death. As I pull out the dagger from my sleeve with the intricate designs and whatnot, and I point out the Castellanter family.
Epiphany takes a good look at it.
Could make a private roll about whether that stirs anything in your mind on Epiphany.
Let's just do straight wisdom.
That would certainly seem to make it kind of thing that would make him pause a bit.
Epiphany stares at the symbol. This etching is familiar.
That is the Castellanter's family seat.
No, it is familiar. We have seen it before, we think.
Where exactly?
Before.
All right, filing that away for later.
If you could think of anything, it would be helpful.
But yeah, the Castellanters, I mean, they've got a bunch of dirty laundry that a lot of people wouldn't, well, the Castellanters wouldn't like other people to know about. It's no secret that the Castellanters and the Growlhounds are directly competing for the next open lord seat, and
No one would ever question the Castellanters, though, due to their great work to the city.
well, don't be so sure, because my organization...
I have been trying to get any information for the last 9 years. The Staggett only thinks of his needs and thinks himself all-knowing and unyielding. He has set his eye on uses any other information.
Perhaps you have chosen too few paths.
You wish to help me.
Shep, remember what I told you back in that room?
I do.
I meant it. Anything I can do to help, as long as it's not a danger to Epi here without his consent, I'd be happy to help you. And I do know this. Thanks to their struggle reaching a breaking point, let's just say that the Castellanters and the Growlhounds have begun reaching out into unsavory allies to help them finally get a leg up on one another. They really want that open lord seat.
Well, then I have either one of two ways I can play this out. I could either pretend to be allies with one or the other, or attempt to outbid them myself.
We do not feel that the Growlhounds would tolerate your offer of assistance. We are not familiar with the Castellanter.
Depends if old shrew Growlhound got her hubby resurrected yet.
She did not.
Why would she? It sounds like he was more of a hindrance than anything else.
That is exactly my point.
You have been quiet, young one.
Mm.
And Epiphany slowly stares at Varys.
What does Varys want to throw into the conversation? Is Mike there? Uh-oh. He's stepped away. I think he gave up.
I think
There we
Mike's
go.
mic is gone.
There we go.
I think I think he's disconnected.
He's back. He's back. Okay, so what would Varys want to throw in on this? He needs to throw his information pile into this.
I mean, I'm not seeing any information that you sent me that's any different than what everyone has already said. Lots of things, silly. Lots of things that are distracting from, like, lots of blips all over the city.
Harbor stuff. What?
Harbors.
That would be things they don't have access to, except for Cashin, who has a thing going on at the moment which might tie to it. So,
I mean, Varys has already told them about there being trouble underneath the waves with the mer people. I know that last year there was a couple of incidents. Cashin, I don't know if you remember this, or this would have been past your time as a guard, probably. But last year,
just because I'm a guard doesn't mean I don't hear things still.
Right. Last year, during the Maiden's Fair, the merfolk underneath the waves in the Kelp Forest were causing quite a bit of trouble. Myself and Melanor were able to get them sorted out, but apparently they're starting to cause trouble for the fishermen again. I don't know if it's really a coincidence that the same thing is happening twice in a row. 2 years in a row?
Well, coupling that with those interesting farming ornaments that we dealt with the other night, I'd definitely say that something is going on.
Speaking of interesting things happening, apparently there is a problem with the people entombed in the City of the Dead not staying dead.
Excuse me?
Yeah. So, apparently there's something about skeletons running around in the tombs.
Varys, could you step over by me, please?
Varys steps over by the shepherd.
Right over here.
Is that a toilet?
No, it's like a counter. Or like a desk.
I thought he was about to give me a spoil.
I can
it's
move
called,
over and
it's
no,
the
I
old,
want you near me so that I get people.
That's what it was called in the old days, a commode. It's where the term came from, but it is not a toilet. It's a cabinet with a basin and pitcher on it, which was accommodated people, gave them their water and washing materials and so forth, made it handy for them, which was why it was called a commode, because it accommodated people.
Gotcha. Okay.
So yeah, as soon as Varys steps over by me, I look at the three that are not me, Cashin, Epiphany, and Relia. What did you do?
What?
Saying this towards them?
Towards Relian, Epiphany, Cashin.
What makes you think they did anything?
You two were with me when we escorted Erstal Flaxen to the Gravekeepers Guild. Those three were unaccounted for. The next day, there are skeletons loose in the city dead.
1, 2, 3, not it.
That does not work with me, really.
We collected the guest that we currently have here. That is what we did.
Shepard, I just want you to think for a moment and ask yourself, why would I raise the dead? Do I even have that capability? Do I know anyone who can do that?
Oh, gee, thanks for throwing us out under the carriage.
We might collectively know someone who can do that if what we've been hearing about this Manshoon isn't all malarkey.
Look,
You
Shepard,
did say he was a great wizard, correct? Oh, sorry for interrupting.
A great and dark wizard.
Oh, Seeley, I'll throw in, who keeps coming back and back.
Right. You both have points. You cannot cast magic, and this wizard, Manshoon copycat, could be behind it. And then I eye Relian very warily.
Okay, Shep, my bosom buddy. I still don't know where that word comes from, but I like it. You know who I worship. You know who I follow, right?
Indeed. Openly.
Just no, not openly, solely. Just because she's the goddess of all magic doesn't mean she approves of all kinds of magic. I try to stay away from the darker aspects of her nature that she doesn't strictly approve of. I'm not a necromancer.
I do look at Epiphany. You do have a tendency to speak truly. I do believe you as well. Next time we're in the City of the Dead, just do not leave my sight.
We had no reason to lie to you.
You never do, Epiphany. And then I start mumbling, lifetimes of work wasted.
Not wasted, just disturbed. And we've got to put it right.
I consecrated the grounds myself. So yes, wasted.
Oh yeah, totally wasted.
Thank you for your reassuring statement there, Relian.
Well, look, I tried arguing with you. That didn't work, so now I'm trying to green with you to butter you up. Look, I can't win for losing here.
the only way to win is to not play.
Oh, but where's the fun in that?
Regardless, I do believe that as a good Samaritan, if nothing else, it is worth going and investigating this issue. Also, it might be worth a little bit extra money, which I can put towards the tavern.
Was it said where specifically this was being kept, or where this was happening at?
They didn't. He didn't give me a building. No. He sent me. Melanor sent me a letter that said that this was happening, and to speak with him when we had time to deal with it. This just happened. I just got this letter last night, though.
This has been festering the entire time.
See, not us.
Not what I meant. Like, this has been going on longer than it should have this taken care of before it gets out of hand.
Yeah, I agree. So should we deal with this problem first before anything else?
Well, we still have time.
If we investigate this, well, at least we may find out something that might connect back to some other issues.
It's possible.
If past experiences has taught me anything, and they haven't, It's that daylight is a good time to deal with undead of all kinds.
Well, unfortunately, we may not get the luxury of the choosing of the when. But I'm surprised no one actually contacted you yet about it.
I'm also surprised that I knew about this before you did.
That's why
I squint and I'm like, yes, that is strange. No one made any attempt to contact me.
Unless the attempts were blocked.
We'll find out soon enough. And I go on ahead
Unless
and
there's
leave the
no
room.
one left to contact you.
Okay, so...
Which is a terrifying thought, and probably inaccurate.
Okay, so before we move on with our discussion, I mean, fair's fair. Me, Epi, Shep, and Cece have all divulged something personal about us. Blue, Sugar Scales, your turn. Come on. Tell us our secrets. Tell us something deep and personal.
I have 2 toes shorter than the other 3.
That's a disorder. You should just get that looked at. That's not a secret.
I figured being such a swimmer, maybe he'd have toes longer so he could paddle better. I didn't know.
No, they're just
Right.
Oh, that's normal. Okay, so you're just boring. That's your secret.
I mean, I wouldn't say boring, but I don't
I would.
exactly keep secrets, no?
Maybe we touch your mind.
Do it.
In short, I suppose so.
Well, it hurts.
Epiphany
Yeah.
will establish a mental connection and just says, "Tell me everything. No one will know. We are a black hole of information."
And of food.
This Varys's eye twitches like, this is unfamiliar to me.
You will become accustomed.
I certainly have. Mind.
And then we break it. He is not boring.
Well, that's good to know. Oh, I hate boring people. Sugar Scales, your turn.
I truly don't have all that much to actually say. I think I've been pretty forthcoming with some information anyways. Outside of my own extremely personal matters.
Well, we've all come fairly clean. We've got a bigger plan and bigger plot to work with, and we've got a next objective in mind. I think we've all grown closer as a family.
No, we have not. We have one thing.
As the clock ticks on towards the evening rush, you hear a minor furor in the downstairs. You hear some of the waitresses downstairs going, "You can't come in here, not without an adult."
I was already walking my way out because of the graveyard thing, so I guess I stopped.
Cashman's going to get more booze.
Yeah, Relian, hearing that, Relian would go down. But however, on his way out, Relian would say to everyone, one last thing. This is kind of a religious matter. If we ever come across any magical artifacts or items of great power and knowledge, I would really appreciate a chance to study them before we do anything that would make us lose them forever, kind of thing. Basically, I'm calling dibs on the stone when we find it.
I already have 5 stones.
You don't know about that.
I think.
Don't say.
No, I've kept that very secret.
As long as we put it to the proper use. I don't see an issue with it as long as you also share your findings with us, perhaps. And then I'm going to look at Epiphany and ask him, is it possible for you to contact Leaf and let her know to give Cassian the weakest on the show?
She has not allowed us to enter her mind, so no, we cannot.
Hmm.
And you, Vane
Got to get
Leaper,
a
we
message.
have a question for you at some point.
Who, me?
For Vane Leaper.
Ah, yes.
The
Vane
one who
Leaper's already-
despises us.
Vane Leaper's already downstairs.
I'm going to head down there and head towards the bar directly, since I know someone else will take care of the why is there a child trying to enter the tavern type deal. And let Leaf know, it's like, make sure he gets only the weakest of alcohols, please. Thank you, darling.
I'll go to the waitress with the period problem.
Okay. When those of you who go downstairs come in, let's see, I think only Cassian will directly recognize this child.
Yes, he does.
You notice one thing has changed very slightly with him, whereas before, when you saw him, he was wearing a large brimmed but very beat up hat that had looked like it had been run over by about 16 wagons. It was obviously pulled out of the garbage. He is now wearing a hat that is in much better shape than anything that he was wearing before. It looks used, but it looks like somebody must have given him a hat that was a cast-off, hand-me-down sort of thing. Way better shape, almost looks wearable, and it is a very bright lavender color, whereas the other one was just a dull tan working hat sort of thing. And he's very proudly sporting this lavender hat, and he's got his chin up, and he's being very defiant to the waitress. But I have to come in. Don't you understand? I have to come in. I have a message from an important person.
Cassian will move through the group and say, well, Squiggly, how was your little caper?
Oh, it went very well. We're going to eat well tonight. Thank you very much. That was fun. Oh, I think it is you I'm supposed to give this to.
Cassian waves the waitress off as he gets whatever is in Squiggly's hand.
Wait, I thought you said you were supposed to give it to an important person.
No, he got it from an important person.
Yeah, so that definitely counts you out.
Oh,
Ow.
snap.
Guys, hey,
And it
stop it.
comes right back.
I can light you on fire.
He hands over a note that is written in what looks to be a delicate feminine hand. And let me activate this to, let me just start over so it'll do it properly here because it didn't activate. There is the note. Cassian is the only one reading this at this moment.
Yep, and he's being very discreet about it. Cassian will Cashin's brows just furrowed as he reads this letter, and he quietly folds it back up and then puts it in his vest. What to do now? As I'm saying this icily. Oh, Sealy, that's what I'm saying.
Oh, so you're like asking us what to do now?
He just looks at Squiggly and says, He just looks at Squiggly and says to him as he writes down he goes and gets a scrap of parchment paper. He gets a piece of parchment and he writes a letter on it, and he gives it to Squiggly and says, please deliver this to them at once.
All right, you want to just tell me what the return letter would say?
After the game.
Okay.
I think.
Very good. Squiggly gets it, and he has a very ragged cape on as part of this standard costume he wears as a pirate. But he stands up to his full short height, and he flips the cape behind him as if he's a dashing devil-may-care rogue of some kind. And he takes off this large-brimmed hat and makes a sweeping bow to you. You, sir, are a true gentleman. I thank you very much. Not like this waitress over here who tried to keep me out. And with that...
Kid, I'm gonna warn you right now. You be any more adorable, I'm gonna adopt you.
That would be a threat to Squiggly.
No, if he establishes a mental connection and says,
Cashin will, and while this, Cashin is going to take a very good look at that hat, at that new hat the kid is wearing.
I will have to think about whether you have seen that. I'm not quite sure on your background whether you would recognize the hat, but the hat would be recognized by some individuals in the city. We'll talk about it later, about what your background is and whether you would recognize it, but there are individuals that know this style of hat and this color of hat is known to be worn by an individual.
does it look familiar to Relian and I?
I can't see anything in your background that would either.
Is it Volo's hat?
No.
Or is it similar to the cosplay chick from earlier?
No.
Did the child kill Volo?
Hopefully.
God.
Is he our new friend?
No, she was wearing more of a rogue's cap, duck-billed cap sort of thing. This is a huge floppy-brimmed hat of the type that you might expect Errol Flynn to be.
Hat.
Yes, perfect swashbuckler hat.
Does it look like it's worth money?
Not really. It looks like it's seen better days, but it's not in really bad shape.
You luck out this time, kid.
Poor child.
Anyway, if nobody has anything else for him, he bounces out the door with a kind of a tossing his chin at the waitress, like, you see, I did have something important to do. But he bounces out and away, unless somebody else has anything.
Nope.
Relian just watches him go, his head on his fist, and he wonders to himself out loud. Anyone would probably hear him. I I wonder if I'd be a good father.
You would definitely be a very interesting one.
We have absolutely no idea.
Me being a father, I don't say anything.
That's probably for the best.
Wow.
Okay, so you've pulled all your coins together in a pile to see what's going on. How do you want to attack the next few hours? You going to handle the evening crowd, leave it to the staff? Are you going to start dealing with some of these matters? What's up?
I am
Well,
very
if I
concerned
know-
with the City of the Dead.
Yeah, Ernest
Yeah, I was
would be
about to
all
say-
for going over to the City of the Dead.
Yeah, if we know Shep at all, like he's going to.
He's going
going
to
to
go
have
I'm
the
into
going,
worst
I'm going to leave without you.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go outside and let the guard know that there's an issue at the City of the Dead we just found out about,
Oh,
and then
gee.
wait for Shepard.
Is he still stationed outside?
He has to be.
Yes.
Yeah, he's
Well,
suffering.
no, I know. I'm not, like, I didn't say that in regards to blaming him. I'm saying, do they still have him stationed outside?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, our matter outside the city is taken care of already.
That's
All right.
That's not the point. He has to be there to make sure you don't go outside the city until they decide.
Without them knowing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would take my sous chef and the waitress who are in charge of cooking while I'm out. I would look at both of them. I would grab each of them by the shoulder and says, "I've got to go be a hero now. Hold down the kitchen and follow my recipes. Follow my recipes. If either of you go off recipe, I will find you. Okay, have fun."
They're standing there like, do we really want to work here?
Hmm?
They're like, do we really want to work here?
I'll
I mean,
probably
hey,
Scaring them away.
All right.
security in Waterdeep, I mean.
All right. City of the Dead. Let me pull out that individual map. Gives you a little bit better. Let's just start with the general image first when I find where it went on here. Okay.
I'm also going to take a brief bio, but I'll be back in like 2 minutes.
Very good. All right, where in the City of the Dead are you going to start? Are you going to start at one of the buildings? And who is, Shepard, will you have Varys leading this, or will you be leading it, do you think? You'll have to discuss it with him when he gets back, because you'll have
I
to...
would say co-leading. He knows what to do. I know where to go.
Very good.
Like I don't know where it's happening, but once I'm told, hey, it's affecting this area, hey, I know where that is. I go. But like, yeah, he's the one that has the information. Although I recommend us going to the Undertaker's Guild. Unless there was, yeah, no, he did say he has. I just don't know who it was.
He said he has to meet with this guy after the. I think he said he had to meet with them after the situation is dealt with.
Oh, yeah. In that case, then I would just say that we should take it to the Undertaker's Guild, find out why I wasn't contacted and what's going on.
All righty. We'll wait for Varys to pop back in for this, and then we will go there. Let's see.
I'm
Your
going
character,
to
yeah.
walk pace with Shepard and look at him and ask, the curiosity, what is the likelihood that there's somebody under the payroll of one of these
I'm back.
cults that might be keeping this information from getting to you?
I wouldn't doubt that it is happening. My list of suspects includes the Lord's Alliance, the City Watch.
I do hope that that it's not all of the members of the Lord's Alliance.
I'm not naive to believe that it's the entirety of it. I just say that they are all guilty until I can prove them otherwise.
Understood. Still, it would be in my benefit at least to keep some of them on our side, and not have a bunch of them get upset because you are pointing fingers. Not saying that I don't believe you and I'm not going to help you, but we need allies more than we need potential enemies.
Truth be told, I was going to go to an enemy firsthand for any new information. I was going to go to Yalagra since her husband...
Since her husband has not been revived or is still dead, you mean?
Because her husband was a member of his cult. I do believe that she does not care for the cult, that she wanted to be out of it, so I can trust her on that.
I have a different thinking, but we'll hope that yours is the correct one.
Indeed. Anyways, Varric,
Yes.
let's make our way to the Undertaker's Guild.
I've always wanted to see personal wrestling.
Yuck, 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 yuck.
All of my head shaking.
So I cast Thaumaturgy to open the doors, because I never exert myself.
Okay, the door opens, and anybody in there would probably have seen this display before, so it wouldn't surprise them when you walk in behind the door opening by itself. But they look up, they're very busily working there, and there is an elderly man with mutton chops who is with them behind the counter. He is dressed in a bit of a lordly sort of outfit, but he is also wearing a chainmail breastplate over his regular dress clothes, and the breastplate looks like it has fit better in his youth. He's got like extenders on the side fasteners for the thing so that it'll fit, and he's a little bit more portly than it was originally designed, and he was having some kind of animated conversation with them when you walked in.
I was going to say he's probably seen the breastplate stretcher a few times.
Pretty much, yep. Probably had a lot of rings added, and certainly has had some leather on the side added to make it fit.
I nod my head to assume not. Okay.
You would recognize three members of the guild who are talking about him and looking very concerned. Oh, Shepherd, well, good timing on your part. We were just talking about Sir Ambrose about a matter that we wanted to contact you with, but we haven't had much time or much information, and so far he's come up rather empty-handed. He's been helping us with.
So you
about the
haven't...
skeletons?
Oh, you have heard? Yeah. Who are you, sir?
My name is Varys Lauderdale. I work with the Emerald Enclave. We're here to fix your problem.
Oh, well, it's good to know we have extra help. And the old noble gentleman blusters. Well, I was doing my best just because I haven't...
I'm sure.
I was trying to handle the problem, but there hasn't been anything showing up the last few nights.
I'm going to put a hand on Varys' shoulder to stop him for a second, and I'll look at the noble. Pardon me, good sir. Nakaris, you said that they stopped showing up for a few days? How long ago was this?
Well, and he looks at the Undertaker like he's not real sure of his information. The Undertaker grabs a piece of paper off the counter and says, well, we had one incident of it 2 nights ago and then another one 1 night ago. But last night there was nothing whatsoever while Sir Ambrose was patrolling the grounds. We don't know if it's because he was here or why.
What? Sorry, go on, Shepard.
Well, no, this would be an OOC question.
Oh, sorry. Yep, never mind.
So was it? It wasn't last night. It was the night before that we handled this scarecrows, right? So 2 nights ago was scarecrows, so we didn't have.
This would have been happening along about the same time.
Okay. So you can continue, Nakri.
Oh, it's okay. I had actually lost train of thought for a second.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. It's okay.
He goes on, says, the matter is actually more than just the fact we've had a few random people seeming not to be able to sleep at night, and he kind of raises an eyebrow, that indicating that the people not sleeping at night are probably some skeletons. But he says, more than that, we've had a few urns go missing, and I'm rather concerned there might be a necromancer wandering around on the grounds.
Do we have, names of who's missing?
A few nobles. The most disconcerting is one of the Castellanters has gone missing. But other than that, they were lesser nobles. He consults his paper again. A Lord Belcroft, and I guess that's it. Yes, only 2.
Now, when you say people are missing, like, is it the bodies that are missing, or like the remains, or is it actual people missing?
Urns.
Urns of some of the. These urns would be the large urns where actual bones of the skeletons are interred, not ashes. These are the great big jars.
Okay, so not actual people; they're just the remains of the dead.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Do we know?
Yes, we've had first report of this was the Castellanters who complained, and then we had the Felcroft family coming in and saying their urn was missing as well, and then shortly thereafter these skeletons began roaming the grounds occasionally at night, not causing any trouble, you understand. They have just been strolling about the grounds and have rather startled a few people.
But they haven't actually attacked anyone?
No, not at all.
Well, it's a friendly undead. Wonderful.
No such thing. For the Castellanters, was it known who was missing?
Yes, it was a Leo Castellanter, one of the family members that were not part of the inheritance.
I don't have that name written down in my notes, so
out,
that's not what I...
He's outside that main line. He's just one of the cousins and brothers and what have you in the line. He's just...
Okay. Curious.
Doesn't make much sense, but then again, this is a very strange occurrence.
Has this been happening strictly within the nobility crypts?
Yes.
There hasn't been any disturbance in the commons?
No, none whatsoever. Lord Felcroft was not what you would call one of the great lords, but certainly the Castellanters are a well-known name.
I should rephrase my question. The common grounds that has not been disturbed in general.
We've had no report of anyone, but then mausoleums and such are not as common. Usually the dead there are interred as ashes. We've had no one complaining that the urns are missing from there. The larger urns of the type that are missing tend to be more of the nobles in the mausoleums.
It's only the urns that have been disturbed. There's no walking bodies or anything.
No zombie type things, no, and we have no report of any graves being disturbed themselves. It's just these urns.
Where have these sightings been taking place?
Most of them have taken place in the Santorum, which is up the circular building. As you know, it would be this circular building up here, not far from the Undertakers Guild. We have a number of niches up there, and empty ones as well as filled ones, and we don't regularly check for such things. It was family members that came to us and reported them gone.
We can start there and figure out what's going on.
Mm.
Oh, excuse me. Is there anything else that could help us for information-wise?
No, none, except that it was rather odd that when Sir Ambrose started patrolling, they seemed to cease to come out at night. Sir Ambrose will turn to you and he says, I was planning to continue doing this patrolling for at least a 10-day. Do you wish to join me? I'm planning to do it every night for a 10-day. It will take some degree of dedication on your part.
I have been dedicated to this century.
I don't think dedication would be an issue. We wouldn't have come if we didn't think we could help.
Well, then I ask you to join me tonight when I patrol. The other sightings were after dark. They're not terribly late. One was seen, I believe, and he looks at the Undertaker, if I'm correct, about 10 p.m., and one was seen about midnight.
What time is it now?
It is about 5 o'clock.
We can investigate right. Join you on your patrol to see any other disturbances.
This is excellent, actually. It means we can cover more grounds at the time rather than me just... It's possible that I was just in the wrong place at the wrong time and I didn't spot one walking elsewhere, but we didn't have any person strolling the ground reporting any last night.
I'm like to look around for a potential map in that room of sorts.
There is one on the wall, the typical plot kind of map, where there's handwriting on the plot map showing how many sites are available in certain locations and things. But it would be more or less the kind of thing that you're looking at here, with their notations of where there's still room available in various buildings or for burial in the grounds.
I'm going to, I guess, schmooze the noble, gently coax him over towards the map, and just for the sake of expanding the search of sorts. What have you covered so far? Where has it started?
Oh, well, we up by the first two sightings were both up by the Sanctorum, so that's where I've been patrolling. I don't know if maybe they've been appearing elsewhere, but that certainly was where the first ones appeared.
I see. Basically, she's just going to sort of play up the female aspect of, oh, I defer to your wondrous wisdom and leadership skills of so far. Could you show me someone who's not been here before where everything's been going down? She's just basically buttering him up and just trying to get as much information out of him as she can.
Yeah, and he looks kind of a little bit lost for his part because he's just been patrolling around the area of the Santorum because that's where things had appeared. Trying to get a name that's more visible here. Okay, that makes it a little bit more visible. All right. Well, if you're going to patrol, are we going to, well, divide up the grounds? How do you wish to go about this?
I have a few ideas, but I'm curious to what you think, since you've already been patrolling certain areas.
Well, my lady, as I said, I'm elderly. I haven't patrolled the entire grounds. Since the first two sightings were around the Santorum and the circular area around it, that's where I've devoted my time, and there was nothing last night while I was here. So I do not know. Do you wish to be responsible for that area tonight?
Yes and no. I'm actually kind of curious where the Castellanter's grave had been.
Both of these nobles, from what the undertakers have told me, were both interred in the large Santorum.
I see. All right. Where were you going to go this evening to start?
Oh,
we can pick up from a different direction.
I was going to repeat my previous pattern of patrolling the Santorum to make sure nothing disturbed anyone who was visiting.
I see. I guess we could start over here, and she'll point to a location that's like opposite of where he is, but still close to the Santorum, like on the other side or something.
Okay, so like over in this group of buildings, or the fence side.
Here. Trying to see where it is.
Santorum is here, this circular building.
My map didn't want to give me names or something. I guess start around here.
For your visualization of this, just so you know, he's been basically just doing this.
Okay.
He's just been going around the circle over and over again during the night and keeping an eye on this.
Well, then I'll put it. Well, if we split this in half, I'll take over here, and you stay on this side, maybe. Maybe we can cover more ground and keep an eye on different areas in case they branched out without us seeing us.
How are the Nakri is going to be patrolling nearby this Sanctorum? Are the rest of you going to be patrolling with her and Varys, since this is your quest? How do you plan on approaching it? Also, the Shepherd, since it's your graveyard, how do you plan on approaching it?
Well, like I said, I was actually to get the Santorum before we actually did the thing, because it seems like it's been happening at night and we still have some daylight left.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was gonna go with you to check it out now. She's just trying to get like as much information as like how this guy has been patrolling, what areas might he have missed and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
Do we know that the undead have only been coming from that area?
So far from the two nights. Can't hear you.
Wrong button was pushed. So far from the two nights, it has been around this building, and that was the building where the two large urns were, repositories, we'll call them. The two large repositories were stolen, and that's where these skeletons have appeared.
I see.
The Undertaker speaks up and says, even more concerned than the skeletons, we are quite concerned that things are being stolen. My greatest concern is that no more thefts take place.
Echo.
Yeah, somebody had an open mic.
For the specifics on this quest, I can't find where you sent it to me.
Yeah, partly because the way this was supposed to go down, it kind of got shuffled around, so I just went with the flow. Was you were supposed to go back to Melanor and get all the details of this once you were convinced that you were ready to pick up this thing, but I'm just leaping it ahead.
Gotcha. Okay. So do we... Okay, so we just kind of know that this needs to happen?
Well, we will assume that between the information that came in that you had something going on about the dead was all you knew, and the other incidents of things going on with information that might come through the shepherd, might come from any number of other places, that you went and got while Cashin was doing his thing and Relian was doing his thing with Epiphany. You probably went to the Emerald Enclave, to Falconmere, and got your orders.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Cashin would have been, he wouldn't be, he probably wouldn't be patrolling. He'd more like just stalk a certain part of the area that the guy is patrolling.
All right, so far, basically, you've decided that you're going to more or less patrol in the area where this has been happening, is what I gather. Let me put a box there, which is too thin. Let me try that again.
I think I'm going to have I'm going to have Varys wait outside the Centaurum to see if anyone tries to break in.
Very good.
Sound like a good idea from the rest?
Yep. So in general, you guys are going to be inside this box, more or less trying to see if anything else goes on tonight.
More or less. What sounds like.
Wait, do we have anybody who? Well, there'd be. Now that I think about, there might be too much magic in the area for detect magic to work, huh?
Probably.
Yeah. Poop.
Epiphany would probably just back up either Nokri or Shepherd specifically.
Very
I think
good.
the shepherd, when it's actual nighttime, he's actually going to wait inside the Centaur.
All right.
So he'll be like the last line of defense.
So you have several hours. We're coming up on time to stop. So verifying how we will do this, you guys have several hours until dark when you would be joining Sir Ambrose. And what are you going to do between now and when darkness falls? Are you going back to the Troll Skull and then rejoining him, or are you going to just wait here? What's your plan?
Are there like rodents or other animals around the City of the Dead?
Yes, there's quite a fair amount of natural wildlife, birds in the trees, and squirrels this kind of thing that are around even moles under the ground to a certain extent. So you would be able to find natural entities if you are looking for that.
Okay. Varus would ritually cast Speak with Animals, and as a kind of blanket statement, go around asking these animals anything they could know about not fully dead people walking around.
Have you seen any people walking around not giving you food?
Have you seen anyone walking around without skin?
And what kind of animal would you choose to talk to specifically?
Just anything that I could find. So, like, you said plenty of squirrels. Let's start with those.
Rattling people. Lots of rattling people.
Yes, rattling people. Have you seen any walking around at night?
Yes, they woke me up. His tail flicks and he looks very kind of disturbed, and his tail flicks every time. Whoever has the open mic, it's driving me crazy because I'm hearing myself come back. Thank you. Yes, thank you, whoever you were. Anyway, no, I'm still hearing myself a bit. Anyway, his tail flicks every time he thinks, and he's considering what's going on. And he says, yes, hard to tell one from the other. Hard to tell. Look just alike, but I'd say 6.
6 skeletons, 6 rattling people?
6 rattling people, yes.
When did you see them?
Yeah, several nights. Two nights, not last night. No rattles last night. Slept well.
Lots of echoing, though.
When, where were they coming from? Did you see?
No, out of buildings, I guess. Out of buildings. Don't know. They just walked around. I didn't see where they came from. Maybe came in the gates. Just walking.
All right. Well, thank you. I will druid craft some nuts or berries or something to give this squirrel.
He will snatch them up and stick them in his cheeks, and his cheeks will be all puffed out. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
And he'll leap away up a tree.
Alright, so Varus will go back to the group and say, I believe that we are dealing with about 6 of these entities. I spoke with the animals here around, and they said that there were 6 rattlers.
Which is 4 more than what already seen.
It's the same story, though. They just walked around for a little bit and then disappeared.
But there's more that has been unaccounted for.
Indeed.
So going up, and they keep walking around. Could they be looking for something?
I suppose it's possible.
So are we all just kind of conferring at the moment?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Were they described as rattling people?
Rattling people specifically, yes.
Were they described as, by the animals, as having bones or metal?
Just as rattling, but they did say that they looked like people without skin.
I have a...
Do you trust the rat's ability to know the difference between a skin of metal and a skin of bone?
Not particularly, no. They are animals, after all.
Epi doesn't think you should talk to your food.
Crazy question. How long ago? They said it stopped last night. The rattling people.
They said that there was no rattling last night.
When did we take care of the issue at the farm?
2 nights ago?
Hmm.
And
right.
you might note that the previous night, right before where you are now, there were no. Let's see. Actually, I think technically, although probably it would have been 2 nights ago that you did it, I think as we were playing it out, we had it that you guys woke up and were trying desperately to get enough sleep in order to reopen the inn. But it would probably have been a couple of nights ago that it happened. Yes. So there's an absence now of such corrupted beings, corrupted things appearing on the farm. And now there's also things appearing in the graveyard, but seem to be on the same timing.
So real quick question, would we have time to go back to the Troll Skull to get things if we needed them?
Probably. It's only, like I say, about 5 o'clock. Things are picking up at the Troll Skull, and then you would be able, because it would be another 3 hours before it got dark.
Okay. Epiphany will tell the people that he's with is probably Relian and Nokri or something by looking at the map. He just says, they just say, we will have to head back to the Troll Skull and we will collect a few things for tonight.
Of course. So what you need to do?
And
all right.
Then they'll go do that meeting when we get the chance.
Okay. So you'll get the formal meeting with all the information on it. Yep. And I need to put a note in the recap channel that Epi went off to make his meeting so that I don't forget what went on and fail to have it for you. All right, so Cashin, are you going to the Troll Skull and coming back later or remaining here?
He probably would ask if one of them got a drink for him. Nothing strong, just something to wet the lips.
And they'd fetch some water from a large barrel that they have water in.
Well, he was more thinking just some beer, but all right.
They don't have any drinks here. They just have water.
Well, that's what I mean. He's going to the Troll Skull.
Okay, have them bring you back some beer. Very good, but you will remain here. Varys, are you remaining or making the trip back and forth?
I am remaining here, yeah.
Shepherd?
Remaining here.
Nokri?
She would have left with her gear on, so she will remain here.
All right, and who did I skip? Relian?
Epi made it clear that he wanted to go off by himself, yeah?
Yeah.
Then Rel would kick back his feet and say, okay, I spy with my glowing eye.
And you start playing mind games while you're passing the time. All right, so OOC out of game, we will have the meeting that Epi needs, get that handled, and then when we take up next time, we will be patrolling the grounds looking for skeletons to see what happens tonight.
I'm still gonna call that it's the freaking robots.
I think it's the rogue number, right?
I think there's 6 robots, and we've been following only like 2 of them.
I mean, we'll find out, I guess.
Wouldn't be the craziest thing.
Nope.
Okie doke. So we will call it at that point. Been a fun night. I did lose I told you that I'd had too perfect a night before and something was going wrong, so I lost a very short segment right at the beginning, but we pretty well filled it in. I'll put a little bit of subtitles on the video for just those few minutes that we lost. Everything else was fine. Wasn't anything too terribly important that we missed. It was just Relian saying he would go to the gnome's shop and pick up the things that he needed is about all that was lost. But other than that, the rest of the conversation was recorded, so we have that. So, Relian, what do you want to say for our betterment and interest tonight?
Bye, everybody. If, as the popular saying goes, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over and expecting different results, is it any wonder why I look at the people in charge of the schools, the church, and the government and just think to myself, we're all screwed.
Rote learning over and over again. Unless it's a good teacher. Okay.
Now, if only we could have the Ides of March again.
Do we need Julius Caesar killed? Ah, well. Maybe. Who knows?
My dress.
Not go there.
All right. Good night, all.
Bye!
Good night.
Send food!